The language of God, sacred geometry. 1. If light could speak. If light could speak, it would not use words. It would not write in sentences. It would not make sound. It would not need human language. It would speak through form, through a perfect circle, through an endless spiral, through a flower opening from its center, through patterns so subtle and beautiful, that we mistake them for decoration in nature. But they are not decoration, and they are not random. Every curve in the universe, every orbit, every crystal, every petal, every galaxy turning in the deep is saying something. The ancients called this language sacred geometry, not merely as art, not merely as symbol, but as the hidden code of creation, the architecture beneath life, the silent intelligence that organizes light into order and order into matter, life, consciousness, and you. Perhaps your mind is only beginning to study it, but your soul has recognized it for a very long time. 2. From chaos to order. The universe is not random. When we first look at the world, everything appears chaotic. Clouds move without pattern. Waves break without logic. Trees grow in all directions. Human life seems full of chance, disruption, and unpredictability. But the deeper we look, the more another truth begins to appear. Beneath what we call chaos, there is order, silent, precise, absolute. A rose does not bloom randomly. A sunflower does not arrange its seeds by accident. A shell does not spiral without law. A galaxy does not turn in empty improvisation. Again and again, the same ratios, the same movements, the same structural harmonies appear, as though from the smallest living form to the largest cosmic body, one design is repeating itself. One intelligence, one pattern, one invisible mathematics breathing through all things. From a single flower to an entire universe, the same blueprint seems to echo without end. And sacred geometry is the doorway through which we begin to read that blueprint. 3. The flower of life, the map of creation. At the heart of sacred geometry stands one of its most mysterious and universal symbols, the flower of life, a simple lattice of interlocking circles, so pure that a child could draw it, yet so profound that ancient civilizations treated it as a key to existence itself. It has appeared in Egypt, Sumer, India, China, and many sacred traditions across time, as though humanity once remembered something it has since forgotten. The flower of life is not only beautiful, it is generative. It is a mother pattern, a womb of form. From it, other geometries emerge, as if countless structures of reality are hidden within its symmetry, waiting to unfold. It looks like a flower, but it is not the flower of a garden. It is the flower of becoming, the flower of life itself, the unfolding of unity into multiplicity. Each circle touches another, crosses another, gives rise to another. Nothing exists alone. Nothing is separate. Everything meets. Everything overlaps. Everything participates in the same act of creation. And perhaps that is why this symbol feels so alive, because it does not merely describe existence, it reflects the truth of it. 4. Metatron's cube, the blueprint of matter. When the central points of the flower of life are connected, another form appears, Metatron's cube. To some, it is simply a beautiful geometric design. But to others, it is a map of structured creation. Within it lie the 5 Platonic Solids, the only 5 perfect three-dimensional forms whose faces, edges, and angles are completely equal. The ancients linked them to the elemental principles of existence, the tetrahedron, fire, the cube, earth, the octahedron, air, the icosahedron, water, And the dodecahedron, ether or spirit. What does that mean? It means that matter may not begin in disorder. It begins in pattern. Before stone, water, air, and flame, there is structure. Before form, there is frequency. Before the visible, there is a hidden architecture of relationship and proportion. The ancient world sensed that reality was not built as a pile of objects. It was crystallized through intelligence, as though light itself passes through a sacred design before becoming the world we can touch. In that vision, matter is not the beginning. It is the result. 5. The human body. Living geometry. And then we come to the most astonishing realization of all. The human body is not outside this order. We are not separate observers standing apart from the universe. We are expressions of the same language. From the proportions of the face, to the branching of the lungs, to the rhythm of the heart, to the spiraling code within DNA, the same intelligent harmony appears within us. The body is not merely biological. It is geometric, rhythmic, mathematical, alive with proportion. The heart beats in cycles. The breath moves in waves. Cells divide according to invisible instruction. Bones, veins, muscles, and motion all reveal a hidden order. This body is not an accident. It is light, organized into life. And perhaps that is why beauty moves us so deeply. When you look at a flower, a shell, a crystal, a star-filled sky, and feel something ancient stir inside you, perhaps you are not simply admiring nature. Perhaps one part of the universe is recognizing another. Because the same intelligence that shaped the rose is breathing through you now. You are not apart from the cosmos. You are one of its living geometries. 6. When form becomes language. Sacred geometry is not only something to study, it is something to feel. It is a language between consciousness and energy. Each form carries a quality. A circle suggests wholeness. A spiral suggests evolution. A mandala quiets the mind. A lotus opens something inward and wordless. And what is remarkable is this. The mind does not need to fully understand these forms in order to respond to them. Because not all knowing happens through thought. Some knowing happens through resonance. That is why ancient peoples placed geometry into temples, sanctuaries, pyramids, mandalas, sacred altars, and ceremonial spaces. They were not decorating, they were tuning space. They understood that form affects awareness. That symmetry influences perception. That proportion can calm the nervous system, focus the mind, and open the heart to subtler states of experience. A sacred space is not sacred only because people believe it is. It becomes sacred because everything in it, shape, balance, ratio, stillness, orientation, supports remembrance. Geometry becomes prayer without words. Structure becomes frequency, and frequency becomes a bridge. 7. God does not create with hands, but with vibration. Perhaps this is where the mystery becomes deepest. The source does not create the world as a sculptor shapes clay by hand. Source creates through vibration. Each vibration gives rise to a pattern. Each pattern gives rise to geometry. Each geometry organizes light. Light condenses into particles. Particles gather into atoms. Atoms become stars. Water, stone, air, body, life. So between the unseen and the seen, there is a bridge. And that bridge is form. Sacred geometry may be understood as the trace left behind when vibration begins entering the realm of manifestation. In that sense, matter is not dead substance. It is living order slowed into visibility. It is light resting in form. It is intelligence becoming shape. It is consciousness made tangible. Perhaps the world was never built like a machine. Perhaps it was sung into structure. And every visible thing around us is still vibrating with the memory of that song. 8. Merkaba. When geometry begins to breathe. If sacred geometry is the language, then Merkaba is the living motion of that language. Not merely a static symbol, but geometry in movement. Rotating, breathing, radiating. A living field. In spiritual understanding, Merkaba points to the idea that sacred form is not frozen. It moves with consciousness. It carries alignment, motion, and energy together. And this matters deeply, because life does not emerge from matter alone. Life emerges when structure, energy, and motion become one. When geometry begins to move, it becomes more than shape. It becomes passage, a vehicle, a field of transformation. Perhaps that is why, in deep meditation or expanded states of awareness, people often perceive luminous patterns, spinning symmetry, radiant inner forms. Not because imagination is inventing them, but because consciousness may be touching the underlying language of reality itself. For a moment, the soul sees in symbols what the mind could never fully explain in words. 9. The soul remembers. I and the divine are one. When the mind is noisy, we feel separate, a small self in a vast universe, a fragile life surrounded by distance, uncertainty, and time. But when the mind becomes still, another truth begins to emerge. We are not outside the design. We are within it. There is no final division between self and world, between soul and cosmos, between the one who sees and the reality being seen. There is only one living field of form, light, consciousness, and awareness knowing itself through countless expressions. Perhaps that is why the awakened ones spoke in such radical simplicity. I and God are one. Not because the ego becomes grand, but because the illusion of separation begins to dissolve. And what remains is recognition. You do not merely live in the universe. The universe lives in you. You are not only created by the divine, you are one living expression of it, as geometry, as awareness, as breath, as light, as love. And perhaps this is only the beginning. For if geometry is the language of creation, then behind every form, there must be something even deeper at work. In the next episode, we will go a little farther, from symbol to essence, from form to energy, to look more deeply into the way reality is woven. Because perhaps, at the deepest level, this universe is not as silent as we once believed. It is alive, it is moving, and it is whispering to us through light.